Oh, you look so uncomfortable. Welcome back. Did you know that infants are not able to sweat as much as older kids and adults too? Their bodies have a much harder time handling the heat, so it's important to choose the right kind of stroller and take many other precautions to help them cool down. Today we're going to tell you the warning signs that your child might be overheated or dehydrated and what to do to prevent it from happening in the first place. Rebecca Michelsen is the manager of community outreach at Penfield Children's Center. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
It's just so hard to think about, and yesterday it was so hot, and I think it can be deceiving sometimes, just how hot it is because of the humidity.
Right, we don't always know how warm it is, and then I even noticed yesterday as I drove home there was this nice breeze, and it was like, well, it's not too bad, but when I still looked, I'm like, it's still telling me it's 93 degrees outside.
Very warm. One of the things you suggest is limiting the time of sun exposure, especially for really young kids.
Yeah, so we really want to pay attention to the time of day that we're spending outside. So for sun exposure, we want to avoid the time between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. because that's when the sun is strongest. We also want to sometimes even think about extending that to 6 p.m. because if we have really hot temperatures, that's usually when we're going to stay really warm as well as until that 6 p.m. time frame.
Definitely look for shade and be extra cautious anytime the temperature's over 90, right?
Yeah, be super cautious. Anytime it's super warm out, you want to make sure you're taking plenty of breaks, finding that chance to come in and get some air conditioning, finding that shade, or just limiting the amount of time you're doing an activity. So if you're going to take a trip to the park, that's great, but maybe it's not going to be an hour at the park. Maybe it's only going to be a half an hour or 20 minutes at the park.
Avoid overdressing your baby.
Yes.
I think a lot of, especially first-time parents, I think about what I did, definitely overdressed my daughter.
Right. We just always have to think about if we're uncomfortable with how warm it is and how we're dressing for the temperatures is how we should also be dressing our child for that temperature.
Good rule of thumb. Chemical-free sunscreen is important, and avoid eyes.
Yes. So we encourage a mineral-based sunscreen, which is a lot of your kind of common baby sunscreens out there do have a mineral-based sunscreen.
And will it say that usually?
It should say it on the front of the bottle.
Okay.
You want to use an SPF of 30 or higher, and you want to reapply at least every 80 minutes. However, if you're doing a lot of sweating, you're doing swimming, you might need to reapply more often.
That's a good tip too. The sun can still be harmful on overcast days.
Yep.
So even if it's cloudy, you still need to pay attention to this. We mentioned that infants are less able to sweat than much older kids and adults too. One of the things that I worry about is kids in strollers because they look enclosed, and they can't get a lot of air that way.
So you do want to, when you're picking a stroller for your child, you want to have one that has a canopy that will help keep the sun out, but we don't want to add anything on top of that canopy to completely enclose them because most blankets or anything we would put over that is just going to trap that hot air in, and it's not going to be breathable for them.
You see a lot
so
of
it's going to get really
over
warm.
Strollers, and it's probably okay when it's cooler out, but not in the summer.
Not in the summer. You don't want to do that. You also see too that can help is, a lot of times you can buy those like clip-on fans that it can just help move air, but still you don't want that blanket over because it traps that hot air in.
It's a great point. I wanted to share the tips of warning signs that your child is overheating. So these are things like they're warm to the touch more so than usual. They seem very thirsty. They're sweating profusely. They're acting tired or seem weak, or they lack energy. Right.
Those are all signs that they are uncomfortable. They're hot. A lot of times too, when I'm out at these events like Summerfest State Fair and we see them, their cheeks are really red. You can tell that they're uncomfortable because they're crying. They're just very irritable, and those are usually your biggest signs.
And that if they look lethargic too, that's a scary sign. Then signs that your baby's dehydrated are things like they have lack of energy again, and not as playful. They seem irritable. They have a mouth that appears dry, and they have fewer wet diapers than normal.
Right. And the scary thing to think about is if you get to that point of seeing, well, we haven't changed the diaper as much as we normally would, we're already dehydrated at that point. So really making sure that you're catching it early, and that lack of energy is going to be the first way to catch
Helping them cool down. Never leave a child in a car.
No. Because it only takes
Even
about 10 minutes for it to raise to a temperature that's uncomfortable for them.
And follow your instincts. I think it's worth saying because, if you have that sense that something's not right or they don't seem like they're acting like themselves, take it seriously.
Yeah, trust your gut. If something doesn't seem right, that's the time to take action. If you have concerns, Always call your pediatrician or your nurse online. That's what they're there for, is to call and ask those questions. They will help you walk through those concerns that you have.
It's wonderful. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Some
you for
important
having me.
safety information for our youngest friends. Be careful with those babies out there. You can visit the Kohl's Building Blocks site at penfieldbuildingblocks.org for more information about keeping kids safe and hydrated in the heat, as well as a lot of the other great programming that you do at Penfield. Wonderful to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.